You're listening to the Electronic Media Collective Podcast Network. Yeah, it's a mouthful. For more great shows like the one you're about to enjoy, visit electronicmediacollective.com. And now, our feature presentation.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen and children of all ages. This is Comics with My Kids podcast. I'm your host, Matt D. And with me is...
Logan D.
So, Logan, today we have a guest. Would you care to introduce him to our audience?
Sure, Dad. He is a comic creator, writer, and artist, known for his book series, The Jedi Academy, as well as one of our favorite books, Darth Vader and Son. Now taking a step into the DC universe with his new graphic novel, Batman and Robin and Howard, it's Jeffrey Brown. Hello, Mr. Brown.
Hello.
Well, thanks for taking the time today to chat with us about your work and your latest book.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Mr. Brown, how have you been?
I've been good.
Did you have a good Halloween?
I did. We had lots of trick-or-treaters, and I was Darth Vader. Well, at least from the head up. I just had a Darth Vader helmet on, and then was dressed normally, the rest of me, but I feel like it was enough. How about you?
It was good. I dressed up as Batman.
Oh, perfect.
And I dressed up as my favorite character, a cranky old man. So, Mr. Brown, can we call you Jeff or Jeffrey?
Either one. I answer to both.
Okay, great. Late for dinner it is. So I want to start off by asking you a little bit about your newest work, Batman and Robin and Howard. Could you tell our audience a little bit about the book?
Yeah. So in my book, you all know Batman. He's the Caped Crusader, defender of Gotham City, and he's also a Bruce Wayne billionaire. And in my story, Bruce Wayne has a son, Damian Wayne, who, of course, also gets to be Batman's sidekick, Robin. But Robin gets a little over enthusiastic on patrol, and so he kind of gets grounded from crime fighting, and he gets sent to a new school where he meets a kid named Howard. And Howard thinks he's going to show Damian the ropes, and it turns out that Damian is also a really good student and athlete, and he and Howard kind of become rivals, and the story is kind of about how they go from being rivals to becoming friends.
Fantastic.
Is Batman one of your favorite superheroes?
He is. Yeah, I have to admit, I was more of a Marvel comics reader when I was growing up, except I always loved Batman. So he was always my favorite DC superhero. So when I had the chance to pitch ideas to DC to do a book for young readers, Batman was my first choice.
Awesome. I had to say, I like how you chose Damian Wayne, or the Damian Wayne Robin, as opposed to like the Dick Grayson Robin. What made you choose that particular Robin? Was it dictated by DC, or was that more along the lines of looking for like a father-son relationship?
It was all about the father-son relationship. So, I really enjoyed Grant Morrison's Batman comics that had Damian, and the idea of, being able to show Batman through his son's eyes. So like Batman is normally like this really cool, intimidating figure. If you have kids, you know that eventually you stop being really cool to them and they become teenagers, and then you're just like the goofball, awkward, embarrassing dad. And so that's kind of, I thought that would be really fun to show Batman as through Damian's eyes.
Yeah, there are quite a few awkward moments in the book that I thought was rather funny.
So Howard starts off making friends with Robin. Will Howard become a superhero too?
Yeah, I'm not sure yet. He might, but I think Howard is also, one of the things I wanted to show with Howard is that you don't have to be a superhero to do really good things. Like, you don't have to be the best, most awesome superhero in the world. And it's kind of something that Robin learns too, is like, as long as you're doing your best and trying to do good and do the right thing, that's what's important.
That's a really cool character background, And I gotta say, I like your character, Howard. He seems to be like a really put together kid. Did you model him off of anybody in your life, or?
Yeah, he's just kind of more out of my head. Yeah, and he kind of developed himself as I worked on the story. So I knew that I wanted to have someone who could kind of keep up with Robin in a way, but whereas Robin's a little more uh, egotistical and cocky at times, Howard is he's just more naturally used to, just always trying to do good and do his best. And so the way they react to being confronted with someone who's kind of on the same level as them is different. And so for Howard, it was just kind of, as I wrote the story, I realized, he'd be threatened by Damien at first, but then his inner nature is to be empathetic and trying to, like, and he realizes, like, Damien has his own issues and problems too, and Howard always wants to help. So his character kind of just really guided the story for me in a way.
Nice. It's almost like a little bit of a slice of life meets superheroes, and I like that, especially introducing something like that to my own kids, to Logan, and it seems to be a really great moral wrapped in the story. It's kind of like it's not up front in your face. You kind of developed it in the story with Howard, and I really enjoyed that.
This book doesn't use a traditional bad guy for Batman to overcome. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with this villain?
Yeah, well, I don't want to give away too much and spoil who the villain is, but one of the things about Batman is he has all these really spectacular, interesting villains that he has to confront all the time in Gotham, like the Joker and the Riddler and the Penguin. And one of the things is that whenever one of those villains gets involved, they kind of take over the story in a way. So every time I came up with, like, which different Batman villain I might want to use in the story, none of them seemed to fit, because it just kind of distracted from what I really wanted the story to be about, which was kind of Damien and Howard and how their relationship grows, and let them be the main characters without getting distracted by, like, a really interesting, weird villain. So yeah, so I kind of wanted to have a villain, but I needed to find someone who wouldn't take over the story.
Logan, usually that's when you say that's really interesting.
There, you said it.
Okay. Do we want to ask this question? We don't want to spoil too much. So I'm gonna throw a question to you if you don't want to answer it, because we don't want to spoil the book. But the question is: so Batman's stuck in a room for days. What room would you like to be stuck in?
What I mean, if I had to be stuck in a room and I got to actually choose, probably like this room. I'm in my studio right now, so I have all my drawing materials and everything I need. Except the bathroom, but I'm sure I could figure something out. But yeah, so I think for me, like in here, and I could just keep drawing, and I've got some books, I can do some reading, and I'd be pretty well entertained. Probably a little hungry too by the time I get out.
Soccer is prevalent in this book. It's like one of the key things that Howard and Damien seem to bond with. And so, are you a big soccer person?
I am. I play pickup soccer pretty regularly. It's my main form of exercise these days, and I like watching soccer. And my very first drawing when I was thinking about this story was Howard had football, like an American football, but football never seemed like the right sport for Damien to play, and for Howard and the other kids. And it just seemed like soccer seemed like a natural fit, because they can play it anywhere, and Damien can show off his acrobatic skills as Robin without anyone knowing that how he's so good at doing like bicycle kicks and things. Yeah. So, and if you've read Jedi Academy, you'll see that they play soccer there too, and Darth Vader and son Darth Vader even plays soccer sometimes. So,
Have you ever played soccer wearing a Darth Vader helmet?
I thought about it, but the helmet I have, like the eye lenses, make everything really blurry. So I actually, it was hard to give out candy even, because I would like have to like lift it up after all. I was like, okay, my eyes are starting to feel funny.
What is your favorite position to play in soccer?
So I am horrible, absolutely horrible in goal. So you never want me to play keeper for you. And I usually like to play forward. So I really like scoring goals. So that's my favorite position.
Sounds like another kid that I know.
Is that what you like, Logan?
Yeah, I like Ford too.
So, Batman and Robin and Howard is a really fun book. And what was the seed that kind of germinated you to write the story?
So I originally had the idea of like this rivalry between two like all-star students in high school, and how one would think that like they're going to show the other one around, and then it turns out the other one's just as good. And it wasn't a superhero story. It's just like, I thought like, it'd be kind of like your high school movie kind of story. And it had been kind of sitting in the back of my mind, but I hadn't done anything with it until I was invited to pitch ideas to DC. And I realized that, putting Robin in this story was like everything fit, and gave me a chance to put Batman in. And so that's kind of where the story came from. And the other thing that I was really interested in was the idea of really looking at superheroes from a more grounded place, like a more like real everyday world. Like, so like Batman having to, come say goodnight to Robin before he goes out on patrol or something, and thinking about like, what would those everyday moments be like for these characters, even though they're also superheroes.
Awesome.
When you think about it, you're not really thinking about the everyday life when you think of a superhero. You're more thinking of like their superhero times.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, all the action and adventure of superheroes is really fun, but we see that a lot in the stories. And so I kind of wanted to undermine that and kind of show like what would it be like, if Batman's shoelaces came untied or something, like doesn't happen in the book, but that kind of idea of like, if he trips over his cape and, then he has to like go and sew it back together or something, like thinking about those everyday things that we have to do, like when, we accidentally tear our sweatshirt.
Or what if the Batman alarm goes off while he's watching his bat suit?
Exactly. Yeah. He forgets to take out his little bat computer, and then puts his utility belt in the wash, and it's waterlogged. It no longer works. Actually, all his stuff is probably waterproof, so that's probably not a problem for him.
Yeah, I'm sure he's got an anti-water spray, like the anti-shark repellent.
Exactly.
Well, I'd like to take a moment to just kind of like pivot more into some of the other work that you've done. How did you get started in creating comics?
So I had a really, really kind of roundabout journey. So when I was a kid, I drew my own comics all the time. I was always drawing and writing little stories, and I would draw lots of comics, and my like superhero comics. And my dream was like I was going to grow up and draw superhero comics. But by the time I got to college, I had transitioned, like mostly stopped reading comics, and thought I was going to be like a fine artist. Like I was going to do paintings and, kind of more serious art. And I ended up coming to Chicago to go to the School of the Art Institute for my master in fine arts, and was making paintings and kind of autobiographical drawings and things, but wasn't really satisfied with the work. And it's like, you know what, I just need to reset my mind. And when I was a kid, the most fun I had was when I was drawing comics. Just to do something entirely different, I started writing this autobiographical comic about a relationship I was in. So like a more serious adult story. and in comic form. And I tried to draw it like I was a kid, like where I wasn't really worried about making everything look realistic or a certain way. I was just, kind of pour out all my feelings onto the page. And when I was done, I realized like, I just want to draw comics. And so I started out doing these autobiographical comics for grownups and mostly about like awkward everyday moments, because I really like the idea of owning your most embarrassing experiences, and something about drawing them as comics helps them become less embarrassing.
Kind of like a way to exercise your demons.
Yeah. Like they're, if you share them with the world, you realize that everyone has like the same embarrassing moments. And so just, it makes you feel less alone. And that kind of led to this opportunity to do something for Star Wars. Google had asked me to do some sketches for a potential Google Doodle for their homepage. And their idea was to do something with Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader and how awkward an everyday moment would be between them. And my son was 4 years old at the time. And I thought, I'll just make Luke Skywalker 4 and put Darth Vader in my shoes as a dad, and did up the sketches. And Google decided not to use the concept. But then I was really loving the idea of it, really wanted to do it. And so I was like, maybe there's a way I can make this into a book. So I took it to Chronicle Books, who had published some of my other work, but they've also worked with Lucasfilm extensively. So they took it to Lucasfilm, and Lucasfilm liked it. And that kind of became the first Darth Vader and Son book. And that book led to the Jedi Academy series that Scholastic did. They wanted to do a middle grade series set in the Star Wars universe. And my editor on the Vader books, J.W. Rinsler, put my name out to them as someone to see if they wanted me to do it. And so that worked out. And then it's just been kind of gone from there. So it was kind of a natural progression to come around to doing like all the books for young readers.
Yeah, I'd say we picked up Darth Vader and Son when it first came out. Being a dad myself, there was a lot of things in there that kind of made me laugh and kind of tickled me pink. And then we've yet to go through the Jedi Academy series, but we're huge Star Wars fans as well. And it's kind of nice to see that you're now going from the Star Wars universe, and I'm going to paraphrase. I'm going to paraphrase Obi-Wan Kenobi, but you've now taken a step into a greater character set universe by tackling the DC universe. Will we get a chance to see more stories from of Robin and Howard?
Yeah, I mean, originally I had only thought of this as a single book, single story. I had done so many books that were series between Jedi Academy, and then I did my own series, Lucy and Andy Neanderthal, and then also done 2 books of Space Time. And so I was like, just one is enough. And I had this kind of self-contained story. But now that the book's actually coming out and I've been talking about it and thinking more about the characters, now I'm starting to get ideas. So maybe there will be some more with Robin and Howard, and because I think now they're kind of primed to have a entirely different experience now that they're friends, and I can see where their journey goes from there.
Awesome.
What advice would you give to someone that wants to draw comics?
All right, so there's a few pieces of advice that I always give. The first thing is just read a lot. So read a lot of comics. The more you read, the more you'll pick up things about storytelling and about how comics work, without even realizing it, just from reading all kinds of different stories. And the second thing is just to sit down and start making your comics. Just write and draw. And along with that is to not get caught up in worrying about where, like, if that comic would ever get published or how it's going to turn out. As long as you're focused on writing stories that mean something to you and putting in the time and effort to practice your writing and drawing, like, your stories will get better and better. And then you can worry about, actually having it turn into like an actual book sometime. And the last thing is just to share your work with other people, whether it's your parents or your friends or your teachers, and just get feedback, and don't take it personally if not everyone likes everything you do, because that's just how it's going to be. But the great thing is even when someone doesn't like something you've made, that might lead you into figuring out how you can make it even better next time.
Cool.
So I want to ask, now that you've drawn Darth Vader and you've drawn Batman, which one do you like drawing more?
I mean, it's hard to say because I've drawn Darth Vader so many times at this point. He's maybe less fun to draw than he used to be. Although, like, drawing new Star Wars characters is always interesting. So right now, Batman's a little more fun. And I think also Batman is another fun thing about Batman is he's a little more, he moves around a lot more than Darth Vader. So Darth Vader is usually very stiff, and he might hold his lightsaber out once in a while, but for the most part, he stands there looking very imposing. Whereas Batman will at least, jump through windows and climb walls and things.
Or stand on vending machines.
Stand on vending machines. Looking like a gargoyle, yes.
I would like to be on top of the vending machine just to be on top of it.
Well, we don't want to take up much more of your time, Jeff. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Comics with My Kids podcast. When can our listeners look forward to reading your book, Batman and Robin and Howard?
So Batman and Robin and Howard will be out on Tuesday, November 9th. I think that's the date. And so it should be out in stores then.
And then also, where can our listeners follow you and see all the cool work and some of your other books?
Yeah, so you can find out more on my website, jeffreybrowncomics.com, which does need to be a little updated. So there's no Batman on there yet. In fact, I think my last few books I haven't updated because I'm too busy drawing. But I do post more regularly on Instagram at JeffreyBrownRQ. And so sometimes I like to give like little behind the scenes looks at rough drafts and things in progress. So awesome. That's always a good place to look.
And you said Instagram. So I think that's about it. So listeners, if you've enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a rating or review on Podchaser, Apple Podcasts, or Stitcher.
And if you have a great new comic you'd like us to talk about or a character you want to know more about, then email us at comicswithmykidspodcast@gmail.com.
And check out our Facebook page for all things comic book related. So again, Mr. Brown, Jeff, thank you for joining us. I know Logan and I have really enjoyed the book. In fact, our rating system is buy it, borrow it, or forget about it. And your book is definitely a buy it, and you can buy it on November 9th at any of your big box stores, local bookstores, Amazon, wherever you find most books today. Logan, did you want to tell Mr. Brown your rating for the book?
I'd definitely give it a buy.
All right.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming.
Logan, is there anything else you wanted to talk to Mr. Brown?
I like how in the end of the book, they were trying to think of a name for him to come. They were trying to come up with a name for him. That's funny.
Thanks. Yeah, I like putting like a little. That was a little extra joke I had, and I didn't have a place in the book really to put it where it fit, but I had extra pages when I was done with the story, and so it kind of fit right in the end there. So I'm glad you liked it.